Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed all the time? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? Then you're in the right place, because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started. Hey, so we're going to continue our reflections today on what a life of thriving really looks like. Yesterday, I was talking about how many times the problems that we experience in the different areas of our life, when we really dig deeper into an examination of what's at the root of them, we find that they have oftentimes the same root. They're stemming from the same roots. So here is another one of those roots that can really manifest itself into a lot of different problems in the different areas of our life. And this has to do with the concept of life balance. Now, is it important to have life balance if you're going to be leading a life of thriving? Absolutely. Because anytime there are different parts to a whole, especially when those parts are interconnected, interdependent, we have to make sure we take care of all the parts, right? Because if you ignore some parts of an interconnected, interdependent whole, either directly or indirectly, we are going to end up affecting in a negative way the wellness of the whole itself and all the different parts of the whole. So our life has different parts to it as well. And therefore, if we ignore any one part of our life, then directly or indirectly, it's going to end up causing us grief as well. And let me share with you an example, again, from my own life of why actually this is the reason why this issue has been on my mind for the last so many days and weeks. So as I've shared with you, for the last several weeks actually, I have been really focused on preparing for the launch of a new online training that is coming up. And for the last several days, things have gone into an extra intensive mode with all the preparations for the launch, because the online training date is coming right up. It's on actually this Saturday, March 21st. And hey, in case you missed my last episodes and you don't know, the training coming up is on my Survivor to Thriver formula. And you want to be on that training because my Survivor to Thriver formula gives you the step-by-step process that we need to follow in order to experience the Survivor to Thriver transformation. It takes you through exactly what the biggest challenges are that can act as roadblocks on our way from Survivor to Thriver, what the solutions to those problems are, what are the action steps that you need to take to solve those problems and implement those solutions. And in in doing so, as you understand and go over the Survivor to Thriver formula, you really get the big picture perspective on how to stop suffering and start living with more inner peace and joy, right? Because when you have this big picture perspective, it gives you an ability to keep tabs on how far you've already come on your journey and where you need to go next, where you need to focus on to keep moving ahead. Okay, and this big picture perspective is critical. Now, as you're talking about this big picture perspective, so there's this, like, again, here comes this issue of balance, right? Because on the one hand, we need to have the big picture perspective to be able to clearly see where we need to be heading and where we are heading and how far we have already come, right? If you don't have the big picture perspective, then you're going to end up living your life like a cow. That's right, you heard me. You're going to end up living your life like a cow. Okay, so this is actually an analogy that one of my teachers made, and it's like really stuck in my head. And I'm going to share it with you, and I hope that it helps you to see the point, this particular point, as clearly as it helps me. So what happens with a cow? Now, we're not talking about tortured cows, okay, who are unfortunately imprisoned in factories and so forth and stuck in stalls where they can barely even move and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm talking about happy cows that are living as cows are meant to live. Okay, they have, imagine an open field with, with the cows having the ability to just roam free, like free range, right? Grazing on the grass in the field. So what happens with the cow is when you release the cow in the field, or when it decides that it's time for it to eat, it puts its head down towards the ground and it'll take a bite of the little clump of grass that's closest to it when it puts its head down, and it'll chew on it, and then once it's ready to pluck up the next clump of grass, it'll just go to whatever it sees through its peripheral vision is the next closest clump to it. And it just keeps moving a few little steps, a few little bit at a time, eating the next little bit and the next little bit and the next little bit of nearest clump of grass. And throughout this whole process, it basically keeps its head down. The cow will generally not bother looking up. So what ends up happening is that it ends up moving throughout the field while it's eating in a pretty random way. And there's no sense of purpose in the way that the cow is moving. You see, there's no sense of planning and determined direction in which it's going. It's just kind of like moving with the flow of things, so to speak. Now, at one level, that's a really good thing, because this approach that the cow takes really allows you to focus your attention on, okay, the next step and the next step and the next step of continuing to chomp down on the grass, right? But what happens is that now all your focus is on this one activity of chomping down on the grass. But what about all the other activities in your life? All the other areas of your life that need paying attention to? Okay, so now let's take a look at what it can look like for a human to be living like a cow, to be acting like a cow. Okay, so let's say you are like most Americans. Americans, by the way, are some of the hardest working people in the entire world. We work way more than most people around the world work. And we are very diligent about our work, and we're really committed to our work. So this is, in its own way, a really, really great quality that we as Americans share. But there can be a huge downside to this, right? And that downside can be that we get so intensely into our work that we begin to ignore other areas of our life. So we're doing well with our work, but our relationships are suffering. Our health is suffering. We are living in a state of constant stress. And all these other kinds of challenges can really crop up in our life. And they may appear to have different, they may feel different, and you may think that they're unrelated. But in fact, when we dig deeper down, we realize, it's because the reason we're having all these problems in all these different areas of our life is because we don't have proper life balance, right? We're so focused on work that everything else is getting ignored. So now what's the solution? If this is a problem that you're facing, what's the solution? Well, the traditional approach, or I should say the general way a lot of people who are struggling with this problem, when they begin to think about, okay, how can I bring more life balance into my life? How can I bring more balance into my life? They think, okay, right now the problem is that I'm focusing all my attention on just one area of my life, and so I'm out of balance. So the solution must be that I must begin to pay equal time and attention to all the other areas of my life as well, right? Because I know, like for me, when I think of balance, things in balance, this image of a scale pops up in my head, right? The scale that has like these two sides to it. And it's when the two sides have an equal amount of weight, the scale is in balance. If one side is heavier or lighter than the other side, then the scale is out of balance. So I know until not very long ago, I used to think in this same kind of way with regards to how to achieve life balance, right? I would think, okay, so to achieve life balance, instead of weights, it's really about time and energy, right? That I have to put an equal amount of time and energy in the different areas of my life to achieve life balance. And I spent a lot of, time and effort and energy trying to even make this happen. But I found it to be really, really difficult. And I was really struggling to achieve life balance in this kind of a way. And then as I started to look around and be like, okay, who do I know that I believe is leading the good life? And what are they doing? How are they doing it? And the more I looked into what is actually working for the people who are actually leading happy, fulfilled lives with peace and contentment, and like they're doing well in all the different areas of their life, I realized that, my gosh, they're not spending equal amounts of time in every area of their life. They're not. At least not all at the same time, or not in the same period. The much better approach that you see with these people, that is common among these people, and that now I'm also starting to implement in my life and starting to see much, much better results spring forth, is that you really have to, first of all, become clear on what our priorities are. And then even with our priorities, we have to prioritize which priority we are going to work on and focus on in a given period of time. Now, depending on how you slice the pie of deciding or determining what are the different areas of your life, or how you slice the pie in terms of how you identify what your priorities are, the different time frames might make sense in terms of how you decide during the appropriate time frame what priority you're going to focus on and how much time you're going to give it, right? So for example, one of the things that I'm really, really focused on these days is, in the big picture of things, is my life priority of achieving financial freedom. And there's a lot of different moving parts to that goal that I need to be working on and paying attention to. Okay, and that's just one goal, one priority that I have. And then I have other priorities, right? So my 5 big life priorities are achieving financial freedom, self-care, a healthy family life, helping others, and that's it. Those are my 5 big priorities in life. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. Oh, and of course, the 5th one is I have a life mission and a life vision, right? Which is to eliminate suffering from the world by helping people, empowering people to live with more inner peace and joy, right? And that's its own big rock in my life, big priority in my life that's distinct in some ways from all the other priorities. So those are my 5 big 5. But even in the context of these big 5, my gosh, it's like I cannot do everything, focus on all of these 5 priorities at the same time. So instead, what I've started doing is I've prioritized my priorities and I focus on each one intensely for a period of time, and then I move on to shifting my focus to the next priority. So for the last several weeks, the big priority that I've been focusing on is the priority of financial freedom, because I am working on this launch for my free training on the Survivor to Thriver formula that's coming up on this Saturday, March 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, that's this coming Saturday, everybody, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you haven't already, go ahead to my website, academyofthriving.com, click on the free online training tab, and make sure you sign up for it. So because I'm preparing for the launch of this new training, I'm having to do a lot more work and put a lot more time and focus and energy on this life priority, right? And so yes, a lot of other things, including my other life priorities, are not being focused on as much right now. But here's the thing, that I have a defined time limit, right? So it's like, yes, right now I'm like the cow, just focusing on the financial freedom life priority, but I have a defined time limit. I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this, okay? I know that, okay, this whole launch period is going to take, it's actually going to be over in the next week and a half or so. And so then I'll be able to go back to a more normal schedule relative to this life priority of financial freedom. And so a week and a half later, then I will be able to shift my focus to a different life priority, a different life area that I have, and make up for the lack of attention that it's receiving right now, right? So it's really important to have a sense of plan and direction. So it's like if you go back to the cow analogy, it's like make sure every so often you are looking up and looking around and taking proper stock of where you're headed and making sure that you're continuing to head in the right direction. The right direction being defined by, hey, this is the direction that's headed towards me achieving my most important life goals. That's helping me live my life meaning and purpose. That's helping me to achieve more inner peace and joy, or whatever your other top values are, that you're living in ways that are consistent with those life values that you have. Okay, so don't forget to look up every so often and make sure you're heading in the right direction. Don't live your entire life like the cow when it's eating. Even the cow doesn't keep its head down all the time. It only keeps its head down when it's eating, okay? So go forth, be happy, and don't forget to go on my website, the Academy of Thriving, sign up for that free online training on the Survivor to Thriver formula, because it will help you to look up and get that big picture perspective on what you need to achieve your own life of thriving. So until we connect next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.